Hello, church. So here is our devotional for Wednesday, April 8th. My apologies for getting this out a little bit later than normal. So yesterday, actually, when I was recording the video, I was also managing to completely forget a dentist appointment that I had at 10:30 in Red Hill. Thankfully, they had some openings and were able to get me in this afternoon. So I'm all cleaned up and back on schedule and doing good and remembered to go. And they harassed me, and as they should, and we do that thing. Today we're going to finish up Proverbs 21. An intriguing portion of commentary from Van Leeuwen, which I'll be sharing as we go along. But there's kind of two pieces that I wanted to pause on. In some of the reading that I was doing from Richard Rohr in Breathing Underwater, he was talking in this particular chapter about the trap of sacrificial self-giving and thinking. And this comes up in a couple of places. You'll hear where it is. So for Old Testament, we are talking very literally about people bringing sacrifices, and what God wants is a changed heart, even in the midst of a whole bunch of very specific prescriptions on how people are supposed to, the offerings they're supposed to make, and what they are supposed to bring. The way it gets translated sometimes, unfortunately, into our modern culture is this sense through which people are trying to gain superior moral ground or get praise from their own practice of sacrificial giving. And Rohr goes into a couple of examples. I didn't want to do it for the devotional video or read a particular section, because it does get a little bit longer, and he's making a particular argument in a particular context. But especially for us as a Christian people who have the message of a Messiah coming to offer himself that we might have life, the way that we emulate that, the way that we take up the cross that we have been called to do, doesn't mean we are going to die. Yes, there is martyrdom. Yes, it continues to be a part of our world, and absolutely persecution, and you can get into a whole bunch of things in a lot of places, some far removed from where we are. But we are called to new life, as well as these examples of how we need to be offering ourselves. The more significant piece that Rohr gets into, which is a very Schwenkfeld thing, is if we're thinking about what is coming out of our hearts, if we're allowing our actions to be led by the Spirit and by our soul, it looks different than people who are trying to do absolutely everything. Okay. The other piece that's going to come up, which Van Leeuwen's going to be commenting on, relates somewhat to this theme of military-industrial complex and these ongoing stories of Israel, again and again throughout the Old Testament, being called to trust in God, but still wanting to have a sense of military might or purpose, and God just trying to work through that to lead the people and to care for them, and how much, and then the modern question, how much do we trust in God to address this thing that might be causing us concern or worry? So last section, we'll be starting at verse 22. One wise person up against a city of warriors. But one wise person went up against a city of warriors and brought down the stronghold in which they trusted. To watch over mouth and tongue is to keep out of trouble. The proud, haughty person named scoffer acts with arrogant pride. The craving of the lazy person is fatal, for lazy hands refuse to labor. All day long the wicked covet, but the righteous give and do not hold back. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination. How much more when brought with evil intent? A false witness will perish, but a good listener will testify successfully. The wicked put on a bold face, but the upright give thought to their ways. No wisdom, no understanding, no counsel can avail against the Lord. Final verse. The horse is made ready for the day of battle, but the victory belongs to the Lord. And that, both at our first verse for this section and last verse, it gets that sense of reliance upon God. And here is the reflection portion. Not only does Proverbs warn Israel of the limits to human wisdom, but it also warns against overconfidence in power and technology, i.e., horses. Israel was repeatedly warned not to rely on horses, just as modern nations might be warned not to trust in military technology. Deuteronomy forbade the king to acquire horses. The theological basis for these warnings about human limits and against arrogance is that the outcome of events, sometimes counter to the odds, rest with Yahweh. This is also the theological point of the narrative of David and Goliath, of Deuteronomy 20:14, of Gideon's radically reduced band of warriors. Let me pause there. That's from Judges 7. So that story, if you remember it, Gideon has this group of people. God tells them to select this group, and they go down and they drink water. And part of the group that have their faces down in it, rather than scooping it up in their hands, and gets it down to, I can't even remember off the top of the head what the specific number is, but it's really low to go face this massive army. And it's God choosing the people who are the most fatigued, the most desperate for water, the thirstiest, and most worn out. Reduced band of warriors, and of the fall of Jericho without human military action. And that was the Israelites marching around the walls of Jericho 7 times. This proverb couplet, and he's speaking specifically of 30 and 31 from Proverbs 21, this proverb couplet and such stories can encourage God's people in adverse circumstances of any kind, even as they humble arrogant self-confidence. And humbling, arrogant self-confidence is continued work for us all. From Peterson. One sage entered a whole city of armed soldiers. Their trusted defenses fell to pieces. Watch your words and hold your tongue. You'll save yourself a lot of grief. You know their names: brash, impudent, blasphemer, intemperate hotheads, everyone. Lazy people finally die of hunger because they won't get up and go to work. Sinners are always wanting what they don't have. The God loyal are always giving what they do have. Religious performance by the wicked stinks. It's even worse when they use it to get ahead. A lying witness is unconvincing. A person who speaks truth is respected. Unscrupulous people fake it a lot. Honest people are sure of their steps. Nothing clever, nothing conceived, nothing contrived can get the better of God. Do your best, prepare for the worst, then trust God to bring the victory. And that's a pretty good summation of that portion from Van Leeuwen. Trust God to bring the victory. Two favorite lines coming out of that. Unscrupulous people fake it a lot. And religious performance by the wicked stinks. And that is, we heard that previously. That might have been in the first section, but the use of religious performance rather than religious sacrifice, or the sacrifices that are being brought in the Old Testament, as a neat way to bring it into our modern idiom. Thank you, Eugene Peterson. All right, so that's it for today. We'll be back with you tomorrow as we step into Proverbs 22. See ya.